This is the Build Your Own Brandcast. I'm your host, Mike Pirtle, with a reminder that we all have a brand. This is the show where we bring elite voices to the mic to broadcast the experiences and perspectives that can help us take our brands, businesses, and life to the next level. Thank you for lending us your ears. This is actually my first time recording with Zoom, but James told me this was the preference, so this may end up being my preference as well.
All right.
All right. Awesome. So, ladies and gentlemen, I have Mr. Ron Carson here with me. He's the founder and CEO of Carson Group, an enterprise that has served financial advisors and investors since 1983 through Carson Wealth, which started in his dorm room and is now one of the largest wealth management firms in the country with over $7.5 billion in committed assets. And Carson Coaching and Carson Partners, which support and empower advisors through the U.S. and Canada. Ron has been named to the Forbes list of America's top wealth advisors, was number 4 on Investopedia's list of the top 100 financial advisors, has been acknowledged as an Inc. 5000 CEO, that's personal goals, and has provided insights on national broadcast media like Fox Business and Bloomberg. In addition to founding 2 philanthropic organizations with his wife, Jeannie, Ron is also a New York Times best-selling author, and you can learn his principles through his books, Tested in the Trenches, Avalanche, and The Sustainable Edge. But today we have the opportunity to learn from Mr. Carson in person. Ron, I really do appreciate you for your time today.
Hey, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Of course. You know, when I started this show, it was really huge on me to just create value, to push value out. I wasn't sure who was going to listen, but I understood that a brand, if you really are sure about who you are and what you're building, can provide clarity and really help people to create a self-directed life. And just looking at your life, it's been super clear that you've been clear about your goals. I wanted to ask you, as the first question here, you know, you're considered a subject matter expert in the field of financial advice. And how important is it for somebody that's maybe first getting started out to decide, you know, what do I want to be an expert at?
Well, so a lot of questions there within the question, but let me just give you a little bit of really a brief history on me and how I got to where I'm at today. I grew up on a farm just north of here, north of Omaha. I thought I was going to be a farmer my entire life. In 1982, my parents went broke, so I was forced to do something different. And I went down to the University of Nebraska, like you mentioned, started the company out of my dorm room. And I put a lot of pressure on myself to be a library of information. I felt like I had to know a little bit about everything. If someone asked me a question I didn't know the answer to, I was embarrassed if I couldn't answer it. And I made a major shift, which also really helped me in business, as I said, you know what? I don't have to be a library. I need to be a librarian. I don't want the pressure of having to know, but I want to know where to find it. Can you imagine if we tried to retain everything in our minds that's in a library? There's just no way possible, right? But we can find it when we need it. And I think that's a really good tip. Is there's a great book out called Dig Your Well Before You're Thirsty by Harvey McKay, and it's all about networking and a mastermind group. And so really to become really good at something is rely on, be a master networker to where you can find the information. I was just having a conversation yesterday with a lady that started out a landscaping firm, and it's growing like mad. She's really doing well. And she goes, I just hate doing this, this, and this, and I'm going to really work at trying to love it. And I go, you're never going to love it if you hate it. And if you work on your weaknesses, someday you have a lot of strong weaknesses. So delegate the stuff you don't like, embrace the stuff you do like, and make your strengths stronger. And the more you can narrowly focus what you're good at and rely on other people that are also narrowly focused and have them be part of your brain trust, I don't care what business you're in, it's a formula for success.
And that's a big key, just having that brain trust, having that mastermind. I remember reading about Henry Ford being on trial at some point, and he told the prosecutors, he was like, I don't need to know any of these questions. I've got a board next to my desk, and I could call people in my office who could answer those questions at any time.
You're referring to one of my favorite books called Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich.
Yes, sir.
Right?
Yes,
yeah.
sir.
I tell people all the time that that's better than getting a master's degree at Harvard. Is listen and re-listen. To this day, I read it originally. I probably listened to Think and Grow Rich 20 some times. I mean, at least once a year, once every couple of years, and I take something new from it. But you're right. That story with Henry Ford is so powerful.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And, I personally wasn't expecting that answer, but it's definitely the right answer. Know the experts is because you can't be an expert in enough. That's so cute.
As long as we're talking about Henry Ford, what I love about Henry Ford is he said, I don't view failure as failure, but a more intelligent way to start over. I thought, wow, that is like, failure is a good thing. If you're afraid to fail, you're not going to try nearly enough things in your lifetime. And I had failed a lot early on in my career, and I just viewed it as a more intelligent way to approach it from a different angle. Yeah. And if you start viewing failure as a learning experience and embrace it and not be afraid of it, then you will have confidence to try lots of things. I always say I could fail 10 times before a big company could even get around to trying one. Right. But I forgot 10 ways it didn't work, and they're still struggling to even try one. That's why small companies disrupt large companies.
Right. You can move fast, learn fast, and grow fast. That's a great place to be.
Yes.
Awesome. One thing that I was thinking about as well, you live in Omaha, and you're managing. The last number I saw was over $7.5 billion. Is that accurate?
We will cross either this week or next week. We'll cross 10 billion.
Let's go.
Yeah.
I'm about to throw my pen right now.
Yeah.
and of course, a lot of people know about Warren Buffett. What is it with Omaha and money? It's not, a lot of people think about Nebraska and they're like, oh, is that in the middle of nowhere? But is there something to having a lifestyle that you're in complete control over, or not being in like hustle and bustle cities, that helps to manage your finances better or think better?
People kid about it a little bit and go, is there really something going on that's unique in Omaha, Nebraska? And I think the natural answer is absolutely not. We're just like any other part of the country. But now when I'm looking at, we're here, Buffett is here, and then you go just south in Kansas City, two of the largest firms like ours are actually there. It's called a Midwest thing. You've got TD Ameritrade here. You've got Orion here. I mean, this is a financial services mecca in the middle of the country. And here's what I think the advantage is that the work ethic, I always tell anybody working with our firm, nobody will out-care us in Omaha, Nebraska. No one, I mean, they could work as hard as us, but no one's going to out-care us. They might care as equal. They're not going to care anymore. And I think we underestimate just how much value is in taking the time to help a fellow human and just giving it your all when it's not convenient to do so. And I know Buffett. I've known his nephew. I've met him many, many times, and he is such a genuine person. And I look at the leadership of other companies in Omaha, very down to earth, totally operating on the law of abundance, almost like the law of attraction, right? You attract those kind of people to you, and it's thriving in Omaha. And by the way, anybody out there, one of my biggest challenges, we're a fast growing firm. We have a hard time getting people to even come to Omaha and look, because the perception is it's flat, there's nothing going on here. This town has a lot going on. The quality of life is high. We sit on the largest freshwater aquifer in the world, the Ogallala water aquifer. The water is amazing. The school systems, you don't need to be in private schools because the school system is so good.
That's key.
And there's no traffic. I mean, it takes me 6 to 7 minutes to get to work. You can go anywhere in town in 20 minutes. And it's just no traffic.
You can't beat that.
Oh, and the #1 zoo in the world.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It's
Awesome.
a great place to do business.
That's excellent.
We are just launching our new corporate headquarters. We're building a 200,000 square foot campus because the talent pool is very rich in Omaha, Nebraska.
That's awesome. I'm glad to see the Midwest attracting talent and cities in the Midwest attracting talent. I went to Indiana University, Big Ten school. I've worked, of course, in Germany as well as in San Francisco, but I'm here in Indianapolis, and I just think the Midwest is a great place to build and a really good place that if you're trying to set yourself apart, you could come here and incubate and really get clear on how to do so.
I'll be in Indy tonight.
Really? Wow, yeah. That's excellent.
We're opening a new office tonight. We're having a launch party for our clients.
Wow, that is excellent. Awesome. Well, I look forward to welcoming you to Indianapolis.
All right.
That's awesome.
Indy reminds me of Omaha. Indy is just the people, the feel, the vibe, the energy. I love Indy, and it's a lot like Omaha.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I definitely agree. It's a great place to build. My wife and I have been working here full time in entrepreneurship since 2014. And, it's been great to be able to walk into certain rooms and just know that people are looking at us with eyes of, well, what can you do? Not necessarily like, it's very collaborative. And it's like, if you can execute, you'll have a place to operate at. So that's excellent. That's awesome. Speaking of expansion and opportunities to grow a business, you have to be super intentional. You're never going to go and open a new office or do all of these things if you weren't intentional to get to that place. But moreover, as you do so, you have to remain intentional and know why you're doing these things so that you can scale and grow effectively. I'm sure as you've grown and went through the different barriers and milestones in business, you've become more and more intentional. And I'm actually working on a book right now. And one of the chapters in the book is on the law of intent and how important it is to make sure that you have made a decision with anything that you're doing. Can you just speak on that and how important it is to be intentional with our actions?
It is so it's so critical. I mean, and you mentioned avalanche when you were introducing me, and we teach a thing. The book is all about blueprinting our life, living our life by design, not by default. I love to say most people are on an unconscious journey to arrive at death safely because they just they get into a rut. And so what I teach is let's go to the end and work backwards. And I actually, to really drive this point home, for those that want to do it, is they go through the blueprinting process and write their eulogy. And have you ever written your eulogy before? It's Mike, right?
Yeah, Mike. Yeah.
Mike, you ever written your eulogy before?
I have not.
It is okay. So go to the end and just imagine, because when we transition to whatever the next level is, the way I look at it, we're going to be sitting up. We're going to be looking down on earth as like a game board, and we'll have eternity to come back and redo anything that we want to do or do it. But or theoretically in our minds, we wish we would, but we can't. So let's go to the end already, and then let's come back and live in the present moment. And so I have people not only write their eulogy, but also have them get into a coffin and record it and read their eulogy, play some music. And it is so powerful. I know it sounds a little weird, but and by the way, I did this probably 6-7 years ago, and I'm one of the only people you're ever going to meet that's gotten out of a coffin. That's a fact.
Yeah, very few that even heard about.
But once you write your eulogy, even if you don't do the coffin exercise, you then can set very specific goals. And I say, I teach people to set goals around personal first, then family, then professional. The reason personal first is if you don't take care of yourself, you're not going to be there to take care of all the people relying on. It sounds selfish. You got to be selfish to be selfless.
Right.
Is really here. So take care of yourself. Working moms have a hard time with this because they run themselves ragged. But you can then set goals, 20 years, 15, 10, 5, 1. Then every night before I go to bed, I talk about this in Sustainable Edge. I list the 6 most important things I've got to get done the next day in order of priority. It gives, because we get sucked into the whirlwind of the day, Mike, and it's hard to get concentrating on important things. I have my 6 most vital one. I do it every night before I go to bed. And then right when I wake up, I start working on those items. I get distracted, I come back to them. I get distracted, I come back to them. And I know everything I'm working on is tied to my 1-year goals. So tied to my 3, my 5, my 10, my 15, my 20. And so it allows also the night before I go to bed, it allows my subconscious mind to work on the solutions. They used to say for every bit of information we hold in our conscious mind, there's 15 billion bits in our subconscious mind. Now they've proven that's not true, that it's infinite, because our subconscious minds, we don't even realize how much data we're taking in all of the time.
Right.
And most of it unconscious, but it's being stored in there. And so to the degree you're focused on your goals and you're doing this exercise each night before you go to bed, your subconscious mind, imagine your conscious is sorting through with your subconscious like bots. And it's finding bits of information that can make the connections to when you look at that same list the next day, it looks a lot easier than it did the night before when you were tired and fatigued and your subconscious mind didn't have the ability to be as sharp as it could be. And I also love to say the 6 most vital one, give me the ability to act sometimes when motivation isn't present. Sometimes, and I try to do this 365 days a year. I rarely get it every single day, but I get it most every single day. And even on a weekend or where you have a lot of excess time, you can find yourself just kind of, filling the time with nothingness. But let's be very intentional about every moment. Like if we're with our family, let's be with our family. If we're doing something for ourselves, let's be with ourselves. But most people, like we're dwelling on the past or we're trying to live into the future and we're not impacting the very moment we're living in right now. It's a miracle. Our true home is in the present. It's a miracle to live in the present.
Yeah, the power of presence is impeccable. And I really think that especially with a lot of my peers, I'm not big on saying millennials, but just today in general, society's developing these habits with technology and social media and our phones that people aren't used to hearing themselves think. And that's such a dangerous place to be, because it's only within those thoughts and really getting clear about them that you can even begin to be intentional or begin to gain control over what your subconscious mind, or even just trying to understand what your subconscious mind is pointed at, because that's really what you're referring to is sort of also, the auto suggestion where it's like, this is where we want to go. This is what we want to do. And let's make sure that we're creating the environment in our mind for that to even be possible. And we've got to control that environment at all times.
Yes. Yeah. No, it's right on.
For sure. Awesome. I'm going to go a little bit into left field now. When I was stationed over in Germany, I did satellite communications, a lot of encryption, a lot of those types of things. And I participated in some conferences, and internationally they were talking about logistics and specifically data logistics. And one of the first people that I personally had came across who had started his own business and grew it up into multi-million-dollar business doing government contracts was in big data and just transferring these massive amounts of data across the ocean. I know that in your industry, you also protect data and you understand how valuable it is. We hear about even data breaches and things of that nature, but a lot of people, especially in my audience, may not even understand why data is something that they should consider. And so I wanted to just ask you, how do you evaluate data? Why do you think that data is valuable?
Yeah, no, you hit on. I believe data, Mike, is a new world currency. I mean, protecting your data is important. Who you share your data with is very important. And then you have to decide as a consumer, as an individual, do you want to allow your data out there? By the way, in my family, we're at opposite ends of the spectrum. I love that Google reads my emails. I love it that they get to know me and they make my life easier and they suggest things. You know, I like it. They say, hey, you should start now, get home because we know you've got this meeting, right? Just little things that actually help me out in life. My son, on the other hand, he hates Google. He hates Apple. Anybody that's, you know, accumulating our data. And I think where we're going to come down on this is most people are going to be okay sharing their data as long as they really believe it's being used in a way that's going to benefit them. At Carson, we have data warehouses. We are very cognizant of data, having clean data, and also being able to measure behavior of our clients so we can help protect them from themselves, believe it or not. I mean, artificial intelligence, understanding data, understanding consumer behaviors will help us allow to serve our clients at the highest level. So data for the future is a big deal. And so is, and by the way, you didn't ask, but so is artificial intelligence. I think, you know, some believe it's going to be the biggest thing ever, and I'm in that category.
For sure. Awesome. Yeah. I mean, we live in the information age. And one of the things I've been harping with a lot of my clients is, you know, as you building a brand, you need to be aware of also attention, right? You know, everybody's attention span has become a lot shorter, and the ability for you to attract and retain that attention is important. But also the ability to attract and retain your own data, your own information, your plans, your processes over time is something that's going to help us to gain leverage in the marketplace going forward. You know, it's going to be tough to go into the industrial space and try to take over a lot of equity today, just because a lot of that space is protected and defensible. I don't think there's going to be too many new railroads built, but we have those new lines of communication being created every day. And if people are able to be defensive about, you know, what you're doing in that space, it's key. And like you said, use the tools that are at our disposal. There's no need to be afraid. The data is there regardless of whether you're using it or not. It's going to be there.
Yes, it is. And most of your data, even if you think you're protecting it, your data is out there. I'm actually an investor in a company that I invest through called Kogo Labs. They download 9 petabytes of data every single week. And that's a lot. You know how much data. Most people don't know how many data that is. But arguably the largest database in the world. And just what they're able to do with that data. I mean, we all get a little creeped out when people get to know us better than we know our own behaviors. But it's the world we live in today.
Yeah. And you just got to access it. Add that into your council, people. Add that into your council. The next thing I want to ask you about today. This is a lot more interview style than most of like the podcasts that I have. But I wanted to prepare some questions for you, just because it's not every day that we get to ask these types of questions to people who are much further ahead than most people, you know, below 30. I'll turn 30 actually on Thursday. So,
all right, congratulations. My daughter just turned 30. My oldest daughter in February. So you're about the same age.
Awesome. Yeah. Yes, sir. So this next question is really about human capital. And in particular, investing in the human capital. We've talked about investing into ourselves, but I'm personally in a place where we've got 20 employees with the construction company. I'm working to expand my team on the branding side with an office in LA and a couple of team members. And one of the first questions that people ask themselves when they're looking to scale is, you know, what should my first hire be? And so what advice would you give to somebody who may be extremely early in their business and they need to start investing into support or sales or marketing and advertising? Where would you say that they should kind of focus those efforts in order to get in a position to grow?
Before I even go there, Mike, I want to get a couple of small things. To me, it makes a big difference. So at Carson, we don't have employees. We don't have staff. We only refer to internal stakeholders and external stakeholders. And we don't work for each other, we work with each other. And it's an important, because words are powerful and matter.
Mm-hmm.
And we refer to everybody as, associates or partners, because they're a partner in one form or another. And we don't call it human capital. We call it talent, so just like a nomenclature around that. But what I tell people, the very first hire is someone that shares your vision for what you want to accomplish. Someone that is really capable, that you probably can't afford to hire. So make it a way that they can participate in your success. So they're making, less cash comp, but they get to share in the benefits as your company does well. And this right hand, I've got such powerful, I've had a half a dozen in my life, and my right hand people are still with the company, but as the company grew, they took on different roles. But getting that first internal stakeholder right is really someone that's really capable of growing along with you is really important. And there's a gentleman here in Omaha, self-made billionaire. His name's Howard Hawks. He's been a mentor to me throughout my career, and he said, "Ron, hire the best people you can and get the heck out of their way." I think that's hard for business owners. It was hard for me to do originally because I wanted to micromanage everything. You got to delegate and release, and you'll find that as you grow, you can't be involved in everything. So you really have to have a strong team, strong leadership, strong culture. And you're really talking about that very first hire is going to be the seed into how your culture actually develops. You have the best strategy in the world, but if you don't have a great culture is strategy for lunch.
Yeah. Yeah. Because people aren't going to buy into what that plan was.
That's right. If you don't have buy-in, they're not going to do it. They could go, there's a difference between going through the motions and really nailing it. I call that discretionary effort, by the way. There's a level at which someone can show up and they're doing just enough to keep their job versus what they're all out capable of. Mm-hmm. And that difference is called discretionary effort. To the degree you can mine discretionary effort, that will allow you to have, you don't need another place for them to sit. You don't need another health insurance policy. And they benefit because they can also share in those discretionary effort economics.
That's interesting. I think a lot of tech companies invest a lot into getting those discretionary efforts. We want you to spend time on campus. We want you to be here. Come ride our bikes, post it on Instagram. It's a lifestyle thing where people can really start to build even their own personal identity with those organizations that, as you say, they're stakeholders in. I'm fully bought into that. Similarly, every offer letter I've ever sent has said to become an associate partner with our branding firm. And so I love that. And likewise with all of our ambassadors and people that we're working with, we also call them talent. So I'm very, very thoroughly bought into that. And I think that's something that a lot of people can learn from because we're all people. Business is just people. And people need to hold value for the things that they're doing on the daily. They need to be bought in and have a reason for why they're showing up every day. So that's something that everybody can definitely pay attention to. I definitely want to honor your time. I know we had, 45 minutes set aside for this today. So I'm going to ask a couple of lightning questions for you real quick, just to hear about where your head's at in regards to these things.
All right.
The first one is, do you have a favorite quote or a favorite book that you've read?
Well, Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich on the book. And my favorite quote is, you haven't failed until you quit trying.
Key. What is one character trait that you believe is important?
Being relentless.
Being relentless. Can you expound on that a little bit?
Yeah, it's the never give up mentality. Find a way when there is no way. Persist without exception. We will all be successful if we continue to push forward. I don't care what kind of obstacles, adversity you run into. Be relentless in your pursuit of living an intentional, fulfilling life.
Absolutely. I can definitely buy into that. And then the last question here, just in these groups, is if you could give your younger self one piece of advice, let's just say either just coming out of basic training. I know you were in the Army, I spent some time in the Air Force. So, as you're marching finishing up basic training, what's a piece of advice that you would give yourself on that day?
So you'll appreciate this, Mike. You know, when we're in the military, we think everybody not in the military is a no-go. And a no-go, right, is just a term for people that just are kind
undisciplined.
of screw up. Right, undisciplined. And I was militant in everything I did. And I wish I would have early on. My advice would be relax, loosen up, and let people grow and flourish in their own way.
Yeah. Wow, that's powerful. I think people will also feel that energy and have a tendency to want to orbit it, stay close to it, not try to run away from you so quick.
vibrate at a high frequency, and that's why you'll attract that positive energy into your life. I'm a big believer in that.
Excellent. Excellent. Every brand also should have a vibration, a wavelength. You know, I did satellite communication talking about modulation, and I'm all about thought leadership, understanding those spaces that you want to try to learn or be elite in, and really focus in on the center of that word elite is the letter I. And I think a lot of people disassociate themselves from like the elite. And it's like, no, all that is that you've been decisive about your self-concept. This is who I'm going to be, and I'm going to be that regardless of what's going on around me. And if you can modulate that with what you're doing online, you know, you can really create a brand station and attract the people who will respect that. And so I know that something that you've done in order to establish your thought leadership is the series of Ron Sense. And in creating that brand station for yourself, what were the key motivators? Why did you decide to start creating that content?
Just like we're doing this podcast now, my whole life, I'm a voracious reader. I mean, there's an app called Blinkist, Blinkist. Mm-hmm. I've listened to over 200 books so far this year. And I can take information, process it, and then I want to share tidbits. We're in a very short attention society. So these videos are normally 2 minutes or less, normally like 90 seconds or less. And it's just something I observed, something I saw, some piece of advice that I would love to give from maybe a mistake that I made. I've got 60,000 followers on Ron Sense. And if you're interested, you go to carsongroup.com and go to videos and sign up for Ron Sense. Or follow me on Twitter. I know your generation, most of them aren't on Twitter, but it's RC Husker. I've been told I need to get on to Instagram. So I'll be getting on Instagram here very soon. And
I'll greet you on Instagram as well.
Here's a piece of advice I would give too. You'll live like you've never lived until you do something nice for someone who never expected it and can never repay you. And you talk about going through life and feeling gratitude and just doing for others, Mike. There's no greater return you'll get on your psyche than just helping fellow humans out.
Absolutely. I absolutely agree. Just doing that little bit of extra outside of yourself is going to make you feel good too.
Yes.
Do it. If you don't do it for them, do it for you.
Yes, that's right.
Yes, sir. So the Sustainable Edge, you mentioned that book earlier. I'm also interested in what those motivators were for you to write that, having that documented thought leadership is a major piece. I know that you've got 3 books. I believe one of them, it may be the Sustainable Edge has 2 editions.
I have 4 books.
Nice.
Original TNT had 2 versions of it, and I'm writing my next. I don't like writing. I do not enjoy it, but I do it because I think it's necessary to get my thoughts out there. And the Sustainable Edge, though, the whole concept of it is people believe that you either have to choose. You're either going to be really successful in business, or you really have balance. And I have blown that apart and said, I have mentored and taught tens of thousands of business leaders over my 36-year career. And growth feeds balance, and balance feeds growth. And it's a virtuous cycle. And in the Sustainable Edge, I documented exactly what needs to happen for any business to live in what we would call a sustainable edge. Because, if it's all about just work, you're going to burn out. And if it's all about just, living your life in a balance, you're probably not going to grow, and they can feed each other.
Nice. So it's really about establishing that ritual between the two where you can consistently, stay focused and have your mind in that forward facing direction.
And it's really about living a life where you're never working. I can tell you, and I get the sense from you, we met right now for the first time, that you love what you do. From 36 on, I say that, there's no retirement's an outdated concept. It's like, oh, so I'm going to continue to do something I don't like to do, so I get a little bit of time of doing something I love to do. It's silly. It's like, take control, no excuses, and incrementally move our life in a position where every day, I was just in Moab doing a mountain bike trip with 12 guys I had never met before. And one of them goes, was asking me about, he goes, well, my travel schedule. I was going to be in like 11 cities over like a 4-day period. And he goes, is that work or is that play? I go, I don't know. You tell me. To me, it's all just living.
Yeah, I'm existing. I'm in a state of being. That is the ultimate goal. That is definitely the ultimate goal.
And I get asked all the time because I do travel. I was out of Omaha 301 days last year, so on the road. He goes, where's your favorite place? I go, it's wherever I am.
Right now.
Yeah.
That's excellent. I made a rookie mistake on Zoom, and so unfortunately, my interview was cut short, but I wanted to share a couple of things with you guys that he shared with me. And one of them is a book called The Centrist Manifesto. Once you get to a certain place in life, it almost becomes an imperative to give back. And Ron has started a nonprofit called the Dreamweaver Foundation, which you guys can go find at dreamweaver.org, which was really interesting to me because I started my career in web design in a program called Dreamweaver. Ron told me that he's committed to living a utilitarian life, and this is a life that, in his words, he wants to be able to do the most amount of good for the largest amount of people, and that's not a surprise to me at all. One of the reasons why we all should strive for our peak and strive to get to the highest levels of success that we can is because we'll be able to fill in the gaps for others that they may not be able to fill in for themselves. He shared with me stats like the fact that 9 million people died of starvation last year, and over 1 billion people go to sleep hungry every single night. Through his organization, he's able to fulfill the dreams of those who are terminally ill. And I want to encourage you guys to get after it. You may be comfortable now, but there's many people who aren't able to make themselves comfortable. And it's worth it for us to strive for the highest levels of achievement in life, just so that we can do our part in doing for others what they may not be able to do for themselves. I appreciate you guys for plugging into this episode. If you guys want to see more content like this, share it with somebody. I would really appreciate it if you would go to iTunes and leave me with a review, or send me a tweet on Twitter and let me know what you think. You can also find Ron on Twitter at RC Husker. And I encourage you to give him a follow and definitely support the things that he's doing. With that said, I want to encourage you guys to build your own brand, better that brand, and in the process, I promise you will create a better life. Be elite. This show is brought to you by Enthrall. Do you want to capture the fascinated attention of your audience? Enthrall is a comprehensive brand development firm that will provide you with the resources you need to build a powerful brand asset for your ideas. From business mentorship and consultation with our brand house architects to creative design and development in our media house, Enthrall has everything you need to create the business and intellectual property your brand deserves. Visit us at www.enthrall.co to boss up your brand today.